This is a universal experience of being told I don't believe you, of internalizing that and it bleeding elsewhere into our lives, whether we want to believe that or not. So although obviously I'm very glad that trauma therapy has been helpful for the actual trauma in my life, I think I'm even more grateful about going to trauma therapy because realizing how much I had internalized those words, I don't believe you, from such a young age. Hello and welcome back to another week of Calling in Sick. I'm your host, Alex Wildeson. This week we are talking about the most universal chronic illness-ism. I don't believe you. We've probably all heard it at some point in our journey, and if I was a betting woman, I would imagine that we've all internalized it to some degree. So the first time I heard those words, I don't believe you, I was actually in 6th grade. I was in a wheelchair because I was having a very bad flare-up that fall, and I was getting wheeled into my information technology class, and that was essentially typing. And we had this teacher who wanted to be cool, so he was like really nice to the popular kids and really, really mean to the not popular kids. And to say it bluntly, he's not someone that probably would have been popular when he was in middle school, because like sees like, and I was not cool in middle school. Anywho, I get wheeled into this classroom, and the first thing this teacher says to me is, "Why are you in a wheelchair? You definitely don't need that. Are you just being dramatic?" And the way that stung, and I think the way I responded to it was a baffling of words, something like, I have arthritis and I'm in a flare-up. And then I was silent. I internalized those words so much without even knowing or processing that in middle school. And that became an internal truth for me, where I started to think my truth is that no one believes me, so I'm not going to talk about my chronic illness because why would I even put myself in those situations? And thank God, 25 years later, I'm at the point where that's not my internal truth anymore. I don't view the world as these people are not going to believe me. I need to hide away. Instead, I hold the truth that most people believe me, that I'm chronically sick, that I'm struggling, that I'm on these treatments. We'll get into why I think I had that evolution and how, if you're in that evolution right now, how perhaps you can get through it a little bit easier or faster. And if none of that, then I hope that this just echoes something that you've been feeling and you don't feel so alone in it. Because it really is the most universal experience to be told, I don't believe you. And this week on socials, I'm very curious. I want to know what y'all's internal truth is. Do you off the bat have the stance of no one's going to believe me about my chronic illness, or that's stupid, everyone's going to believe me about my chronic illness? I'll have you guys place in the comments what you think. But before we dive on in, this week, if you could do some housekeeping with me, we are nearly towards the end of the year, and this podcast is finally ranked in the top 200 medical health and wellness podcasts, which I'm so excited about. But my goal, because you guys know I hear something and I'm like, yay, and then I keep running because I want more, because I'm a psychopath. If you want to rate and leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, make sure you're subscribed on all the different platforms, send it to friends and family to help push it out more. I will be forever thankful and indebted to you guys. It's been the greatest treat and pleasure to spend this last year and a half podcasting alongside you guys, getting to know you, feeling the depth and breadth of this community as a whole. I feel so lucky that this is the world I now get to live in. I know I just talked about it a little bit, but when I was 6, it was really isolating and alienating to be sick like that. So thank you for being here and being a part of my life. It has been the greatest evolution in how I handle my chronic illness ever imaginable to me. And as a thank you, because you guys know I love you, I have Alex's picks for you. This week, since we're talking about rather heavy topics and realizations that sometimes allow trauma to bubble up in our bodies, we're talking cozy and comfort and all the things that make us feel warm and fuzzy and loved. So my Alex's picks for you guys this week are 1, Elastique, which if you guys follow me on socials, you know I am obsessed with this company. They make wearable wellness athleisure wear. Inside all of their products are these micro pearls that are very carefully placed and designed to promote lymphatic draining. So you basically are doing a wellness activity without thinking about it, which I'm a huge fan. Work smart, not hard. We're chronically sick. We don't have the spoons to work super, super hard at everything that we do in life. So I wear it to travel. I wear it after infusions. I wear it on flare-up days. I wear it when I don't feel my best. I wear it on days where I want to feel my best the next day. It is that impactful to my life. It is a bit of a spend, but if you are nearing the end of the year and you have not spent all of your FSA or HSA dollars and they don't roll over into the new year, it's the perfect place to spend them. And if you're listening to the live right now, they are running all of their sales through Black Friday. I think their sales end after Cyber Monday, but I'm not totally positive on that. And also for those of you listening, I will be doing a giveaway with them in the beginning of December to launch a very fun little initiative that we're going to do the month of December together. Because December is busy as fuck, it's stressful as hell, and I think this little game, if you will, that we're going to play together is going to help everyone unload and offload during this holiday season to feel their best. Pour into our own cups. I will be getting a discount code for them, so check the description below, check socials, and that's where you'll find it. My second pick of the week is a newly found hero product. It is the slippers by Warmies that are microwavable. They come in just like the slide slipper and the boot slipper. I bought the slide slippers. They're great. I do have child-sized feet. I buy a 5 in boys, so they're a little bit big on me. I do think I'm going to buy the boot cut for that reason, because they have a little cinch thing around your ankle and they'll definitely keep the shoe on a little bit better. Anywho, you put the Warmies in the microwave for a minute and it is the most luxurious feeling for your feet. A warm little kiss, a nice little hug. It just makes you feel that extra, I don't know the word even to describe it, just that extra little self-care luxury that nobody even knows that you're doing. And the best part too is they are affordable. Less than $35 for a heatable pair of cozy as fuck Warmies slippers. If you don't know the brand Warmies, they're amazing. They make these like stuffed animal heating packs that are very cute. And if I was a chronically ill kid, it would be my go-to. And you guys know me, I'm a chronically ill kid just in an adult's body. They're my go-to. I have the sloth and I have my eyes on one other. The koala, it's my favorite animal. But my most important pick of the week is the Calling in Sick merch, which launched on November 24th. It was limited quantity. I don't know if it's sold out yet. I'm actually recording this before we even drop it. But I'm so excited for you guys to see it. We've got a crew sweatshirt, a hoodie, zip up, one pair of sweatpants, and a t-shirt. And the best part of all of it is that washed, oversized, worn-in, cozy sweat set that we all know and love and like try to get our other sweat sets to look and feel like. You're in for a treat. I would only pick the best for you guys. The second fun aspect of the Calling in Sick merch is our custom-made patches. Our team has spent the last 2.5 months designing these, and I cannot wait for you guys to see them. They're funny, they're inside jokes, they're iconically chronically ill, and they are phenomenally amazing. We will be doing exclusive drops of different patches over the next several months, and we will be getting y'all involved. And this is only going to be available to our paid Substack subscribers. It costs, I think, $2 per month to subscribe, and you get access to our blog posts, downloadable take-home little goodie bags like duvet day guides, which has book recs and TV recs and all the cozy recs that you might possibly need. It also gives you access to Ask Alex, which will be a new segment that we're going to introduce to the podcast in January, where at the end of every episode, I'll be answering some of your guys' questions. We'll clip it out for socials and post the answers on our Substack. And you'll also get a little shout out on the podcast. And that's also the group that we're going to go to when we want help designing and customizing our next limited edition merch drop. So make sure you subscribe. We'll be linking it up all week on socials. You can find the link in the description below, but make sure you sign up for our Substack so you can be involved in all of the fun ahead. Last PSA. Save the date, December 19th. We are hosting our next virtual event. It will be a live on YouTube this time, so we can get all involved together. And Cooper and I are inviting y'all to be the third wheel on our date night. We're going to make chicken noodle soup together. We're going to laugh. We're going to hang out. It'll be a really fun time, and I cannot wait to have you guys join. For anyone that does RSVP, you will get a grocery store list so you can have all the items that you might need for cooking that night. And we will be doing a live giveaway that's going to be for a very fun company that I love, and I can't wait for you guys to get it. the best collab ever. Very Spoonie coded, and I don't think many people know about this company, so it's going to be fun and new and exciting. And now, without further ado, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this week's episode. We are talking about I don't believe you and how when we internalize those words, it impacts our entire life. So let's get into it. So this week we're talking about the impact of internalizing the gaslighting that happens with being chronically ill. The funniest parallel I could make for those that are not chronically ill to understand what this might feel like at a very superficial and silly level has to do about laundry. So when you've been doing laundry and you pick up your clothes out of the dryer and they're hot AF and you touch them and all of a sudden you go, I don't know if these are just hot or if they're a bit damp. And you can't figure it out for the life of you until they cool down enough to actually figure out if they're damp or not. And so you spend this time going back and forth in your own brain of, am I going crazy? Why can't I figure out if this laundry is dry or not? And so you stand in front of your dryer for God knows how long trying to figure out what to do with this laundry. Do you run it again? What to do with these dry clothes? Do you run it again? Do you risk it to be damp clothes that you're then going to transport to your bedroom and fold? And then potentially have to go back to your dryer and re-dry them? It's a whole hullabaloo, and it makes you feel insane. Well, if we extrapolate that feeling of should I, shouldn't I, is this right, is this not right, wanting to go ask someone else to feel the hot or potentially damp clothing to pulse check if you are insane or not, that's kind of what it's like when you're chronically ill and you start internalizing those words, I don't believe you, and then you start seeking external validation in every aspect of your life. Now, before I go any further, I did the research to figure out why the fuck that happens because it's the most obnoxious part of doing laundry, in my opinion. So our skin is able to sense temperature, pressure, pain, and vibration. Wet, not wet, wet or dry, not a sensation that we actually can pick up on. Our brains blend temperature and texture to figure out if something is wet or not. So when you're picking up the laundry out of the dryer and it's hot AF and you can't figure out if it's damp or not, that's because it's so hot against our cold skin that it confuses our brains. Okay, so let's talk about how I even stumbled into this realization of internalizing I don't believe you so much that it was impacting other aspects of my life. Y'all know I've been going to trauma therapy for the kidnapping that happened 10 years ago. If you don't know that lore, we can go on a quick little side quest. I was studying abroad, got into a car, got driven out to the middle of nowhere, had other cars following us. There was cash being traded between different hands, and I thought my life was over as I knew it and that I was going to be sold into sex trafficking. By the grace of God and a very tough-nailed girl from the Bronx, we got out of the situation, but it was terrifying. And when we got back to our campus, the girl I was rooming with kept saying, I think you guys are being dramatic. I don't feel like that's what happened. I would have gotten myself out of that situation faster. Her response to that trauma made me have that exact visceral response that I had when I was in 6th grade and my teacher said, I don't believe you, about me using a wheelchair. All of a sudden, I started to second guess the events that were playing in my brain about what had happened during that kidnapping fiasco. I would ask if I was being dramatic. I would pulse check with myself nonstop. It was exhausting. It was causing rolling panic attacks, and it was a behavior that bled everywhere else. Now, I started going to trauma therapy because someone tried to break into our house this year, and it just unearthed all of that trauma that I had never dealt with, even though it was 10 years in the past. And the funniest thing that has come out of that trauma therapy is, one, I do feel much better about that event in my life. And two, is that I've had these moments of realization that I did internalize that gaslighting. Ever since I was a little kid, that 6th grader in a wheelchair going to IT class, having a teacher say, I don't believe you. I thought I was in the camp of everyone believes me. I have diagnoses. I have a treatment plan. I'm 31 years old, and I didn't think I had internalized this impact of I don't believe you. But trauma therapy opened up my eyes to understand that I have. And I have since I was that 6th grade girl in a wheelchair with a teacher gaslighting her. And that has bled into so many different aspects of my life. Now, realizing that caused a lot of different emotions and flare-ups and whatnot. But it also has been incredibly liberating. And that's why I wanted to do this episode, because this is a universal experience of being told I don't believe you, of internalizing that and it bleeding elsewhere into our lives. Whether we want to notice it, whether we want to believe that or not. So although obviously I'm very glad that trauma therapy has been helpful for the actual trauma in my life, I think I'm even more grateful about going to trauma therapy because realizing how much I had internalized those words, I don't believe you, from such a young age, 6th grade, has impacted who I am and how I live my life. And that realization has changed everything about how I'm now interacting with myself and how I'm interacting with others. It's been incredibly liberating. So since that trauma therapy session, I've had a lot of time to think about, why is this such a shared experience? And the biggest thing I can take away is that I don't think people understand chronic illnesses as a whole until something happens. And there's 3 things that I've thought of that prompt them to have this evolution of all of a sudden understanding or being able to be empathetic towards those with an invisible or chronic illness. The first reason is kind of obvious. They experience it themselves. We probably all have someone in our lives that was kind of a dickhead to us with our chronic illness, and then we get a text years later, hey, I just got diagnosed with X, I would love to chat. Those people, unfortunately, have to live it to understand it. The second reason that can cause this evolution is they all of a sudden have to interact with someone that is living with a chronic illness, an invisible illness, intimately. I mean, they become a caregiver, they become a compassionate best friend, a very close coworker, and I'm talking about the kind that like drives you to appointments, not just like you hang out at lunch. Those are the kind of people that they see something happen in your day-to-day life and then have the aha of, oh, this is serious, this is bad, this is heavy. A silly example of that, but very real, is one of my friends and I went on a hike with Cooper and our dogs, and I fell and I fractured my thumb/wrist. But I popped right up, said, I'm fine, kept on walking. I didn't even go and get an x-ray for a week and a half following it. And when I texted her and told her, hey, funny enough, I broke my wrist on that hike, she had the aha moment of, holy shit, Alex's pain tolerance is through the roof. So when she says I'm hurting, that means she is really fucking hurting. So she shared a somewhat normal, non-chronically ill experience with me, and it put my chronic illness into perspective for her. But I don't think it always has to be so serious. It doesn't have to be them experiencing it. It doesn't have to be some normative experience that then prompts this perspective shift. I think sometimes people can even change their perspective when we are able to articulate and describe our lived experience in a way that's familiar to them. I noticed a shift in how people interacted with me and my chronic illnesses when I got diagnosed with vasculitis. It wasn't the diagnosis itself that changed how people understood what I was going through, but it was the treatments I was going through. After the first year of living with my diagnosis, I started pretty aggressive chemotherapy treatments. And when I told my friends and family that that was what was happening, they all of a sudden had a click moment of, oh shit, this is really serious. And I think that's because most people have some inclination of how shitty chemotherapy is. Now, granted, I'm on much lower doses than someone with really aggressive cancer, but chemotherapy is chemotherapy and it has side effects and it's hard to fucking go through. Now, that seems like a very obvious one, where it's just recognizing a treatment and then being able to have this aha, oh, this is a serious disease. Sometimes I think the spoon theory can help with a perspective change. Sometimes just spending a day with somebody can make a perspective change. And candidly, that's why I share my highs, my lows, and my average day online, because I want people to become familiar with what it's like to live with a chronic illness. And I'm hoping that I describe it in terms and phrases that are relatable enough that potentially someone without a chronic illness could listen to it and then have an aha moment of, oh, that's what these are like. Autoimmune diseases are really intense and difficult and hard. But even with that understanding of why people gaslight and what it takes for them to shift their perspective, that doesn't change that it happens to all of us and it's such a universally shared experience. And for lack of a better word, that just sucks. And I will be so blunt with you guys. I have internalized that gaslighting to such a strong degree that it's shaped who I am to this day, how I interact with myself, and how I interact with other people in this world, across so many buckets in my life, if not all. And I thought I would share a little bit about some of those buckets. One of the easiest ones for me to call out and spot was how I was in corporate America. I was known for being a feedback junkie. Every single week, in my perfect world, it would have been every single day, I asked for feedback. How was I performing? Did the things I turn in meet standards or beat standards? How was I ranked relative to my peers? Did it look like I was a good match for this kind of career? I worked in finance for 10 years. Why was I asking these people these questions instead of asking myself or trusting what my own instinct was? Because honestly, nobody was going to tell me what I was feeling, which was I did pretty good at my job, but it was very abundantly clear that I fucking hated working in finance. It did not make me excited to wake up in the morning. I never wanted to go to work. I never wanted to go to the happy hours with people because I dreaded working in that industry until much later. Now I do venture consulting and I like that. And I actually do like that quite a bit. The other side of the coin is that I had massive imposter syndrome. I never felt like I was doing enough, showing up enough, or performing well enough. And part of that was because I worked from home where my peers were all going into the office. And I did that as an accommodation for my health. So not having that FaceTime, I already felt like I was a foot off, a foot behind everyone. And I felt like it held this detriment to my ability to perform, to collaborate, and eventually to move up the ladder in the corporate world. It did not matter how many positive reviews I would get in my biannual review sessions. I never felt like I was enough, and I never felt like I would amount to much in that career. Now, for a long time, I thought that was just me interacting with corporate America and that it was stressful and hard, but that's just how the working world was. Now, being out of that world for 2 years? Yeah. But now, being out of that world for 2 years, being in a working field that I love, that makes me excited. Of course, there's stressful and hard days, but more than not, I love what I get to do now. But now, 2 years out of the game, as an outsider looking back, it's abundantly clear to me. I had internalized this I don't believe you so deeply that I was seeking external validation for my performance, for how I was showing up to other people. And I craved knowing what other people thought of me because ultimately I wanted to be believed. Now, I don't think it has to take you quitting your job and leaving corporate America to get to those realizations. I think hearing somebody else talk about it can help push you to have that evolution. So if you are a feedback junkie and you constantly have imposter syndrome, this might be you. You might need to check yourself and go, am I having these feelings of self-doubt because of something else? And I would imagine you'll have an aha moment too of, oh, this is my internalized, people don't believe me, I'm not enough. That all ties back to being chronically sick. But it doesn't just stop at the work environment, of course, because we're chronically ill people. It has impacted my relationships too. I am the wife that consistently asks the husband, are you mad at me? Is everything okay? When there is not an argument in sight and things are going amazingly well, I have this need to check in on how he feels about me, despite the fact, and you guys know this, Cooper showers me in love. It is abundantly clear that he adores me and I adore him. But because of all of this internalized shit, I have to ask him for my own sanity, for my own anxiety levels, how he's feeling about me in order to feel calm and okay. And that doesn't just end with him. I will read text messages from friends or family, and if the punctuation seems serious, I think there is something awry. And I'll hold myself to that and then try to overcorrect by being very present, very involved, and I lose all my spoons trying to prove to them and myself really that I'm a good enough friend, family member, partner, what have you. And of course, there's other layers there. Chronic illness impacts relationships in so many different ways. I've been told I'm flaky, that I'm not fun anymore, that it's a bad ROI to be friends with me. And yes, those things sting, duh, but they also underscore that internalization of people don't believe me. Because if someone believed me, they would know I'm not being flaky. They would know I'm just being honest. I can't show up. I don't have enough spoons. If people believed me, they would know I am still fun. I just have to prioritize my health right now because my health is a shit show. And if I went and had fun like I used to, I would end up in the fucking hospital. If people believed me, they would know I'm not a bad ROI on being a friend. I just don't have as much of a cup to pour out of as all of their other friends. Being chronically sick in relationships is hard. Having that internalization of people don't believe me or I'm not good enough makes it that much harder. And if that part resonates, I am sorry. Relationships and chronic illness are undescribably hard. Heartbreaking at times, exhilarating at other times. It's a really, really strange onion. And at some point I will do a podcast episode on friendships, the losses and the gains that I've had there. But that's not this week's podcast episode. This week we're talking about the internalization of the words I don't believe you. And the last bucket that I can recognize that it has hit hard is obviously has to do with my health. I have learned to put on a mask, to perform sick in a certain way, to ask questions a certain way, to be a specific kind of patient so that I can get the care that I need or deserve. I have been the person that's asked every single question in the chat forums of, is this normal? Is this weird? Is this okay? I have had the medical OCD of looking at moles on my body, thinking they're ticks, and I get these blinders that go on where all I can think about is I don't trust my own instincts with my health, with my body, with my mind because of that internalized I don't believe you. And that can be so dangerous and so detrimental. Now, I do think it's really good and it's an important skill to learn how to perform sick in a way to get the care you need for certain medical providers. Going to the ER with an invisible illness as a cute girl in your 30s, it's going to be hard to get the care you need because more often than not, you're going to interact with medical providers that are going to say, I do not believe you. And that serves nobody, and it's a waste of your spoons when you're just trying to get care and help. But I think it can also go too far, where people put on a mask or a performance of I'm sick in order to get the care or the support that they need from their friends and family, and then get stuck in it. And if you are stuck performing sick, how are you ever going to have a good non-flare day? It's terrible. And I think all of us can probably look back at a point in our lives where we had the blinders on and all we could do was just be sick to get the care so we can feel better. And it takes feeling actually better to then realize I don't have to do that anymore. I'm okay right now. The other area that I've really felt this internalized I don't believe myself is with my medical OCD. When I am in such a tizzy and a flare-up of I don't feel good, I will spiral about the smallest things. A mole on my skin is all of a sudden, that could be a tick in my brain, and I need to have 5 of my chronically ill friends, my mom and Cooper, all take a look at it to confirm it is in fact a mole and not a tick. I think we develop those OCD ticks, pun on word, play on word, pun intended, because of how much we internalize those words I don't believe you. And how much that sinks into I don't believe myself. I think the medical repercussions of that internalization is actually one of the hardest ones to get out of, and also the most important one to get out of. So TLDR of this is because of being told I don't believe you at such a young age and time again, I lost trust in my own perception of my life, my experience, and I became a bit addicted to getting external validation instead of trusting my own instincts and gut. And let me tell you, that is an absolute waste of spoons and energy. It's exhausting to all parties involved. And I'm sharing this all so openly with you guys because whether we see it or not, this is such a universally shared experience that a voice will develop in our heads that talks to us like this, that says, Nobody believes you. How can you believe yourself? Or you're not showing up enough. You're not good enough. And that self-doubt is not serving us. And it is so worth exploring and talking about because it's absolutely freeing and liberating when you don't spend your spoons like that. When you don't ruminate on, is this a tick or a mole? When you don't catastrophize someone's mad at you because they put a period instead of an exclamation point in a text message to you. It's so worthwhile to give yourself those spoons back, to get that energy back, and to free yourself of that kind of pressure. And I don't think trauma therapy is necessarily the end-all be-all to get there, but I'm hoping at least this episode can serve as a catalyst for talking and exploring this impact to our lives, and hopefully feeling a little bit better, a little bit more self-secure, and a little bit more confident in our own decision-making and perception. Now, this has been a rather heavy and a lot of an episode, so my one brain cell show for you guys is light as heck and a great way to just turn off your brain and let yourself escape that internalized I don't believe you. And it's The Secret Life of Mormon Wives. Why I love this show and why it is the one brain cell pick of the week for this week is because those girls are articulate as fuck. They're all going to therapy. They're all working on their shit. And they very candidly share how they're going through it, what the experience has been like, and how it's been impactful for them. And that I find to be incredibly inspiring. Even though it's a silly little show, I have walked away from every season of it going, I'm going to think about that. And I love when dumb, silly shows have that impact on me. And the other reason why I love this show is because there's a girl on it with a chronic illness. And what I love about her is that she shows the really bad days, the really good days, and the average normal day. And so many faces, famous people, voices online, influencers with chronic illnesses show only the really, really good or the really, really bad. And how can we possibly find ourselves in that content or in them and relate to them when their average day is never shown? Because our average days are somewhere in between the worst and the best. And on that note, if I sit in this position any longer, I am bound to have the worst day ever and hip pain. So I need to get up and stretch. So I love you guys. I believe you. You are good enough. And I want to encourage you to trust your own perception and your gut and know that you can validate yourself. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me for another week of Calling in Sick. As a reminder, I would love for y'all to like, follow, subscribe, save, share with a friend, do all of the things. It truly helps grow this community, and it helps these episodes reach the people that need them the most, whether that's for an educational piece, to have a little laugh, or to not feel so alone. As a reminder, Calling in Sick sits on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, and anywhere else where you can find your listens. From the bottom of my heart, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for calling in sick with me every Monday. It's been an honor and a pleasure so far, and I can't wait to continue building this community with y'all. Love you.